And hello, Alexa. Good afternoon.
My Alexa just piped up at that.
Oh, your Alexa just piped up. Thought that I was talking
Well,
to. Okay. Okay, let me just say good afternoon, Alexa Warner. Okay,
yes,
who is the
thank you.
founder at Heartful Mind.
No,
No,
healthful mind.
Healthful Mind. Apologies,
Yeah,
my apologies. Who is the founder at Healthful Mind Clinic.
yes.
You're very welcome, Alexa. So please introduce yourself to our audience and let us know how you started your journey and how you have got to where you are today.
Okay, so it's been quite a long journey,
Okay.
but it didn't start properly until my 40s. So I'm 60 now. I was 60 last year, and I had spent years struggling with my health since pretty much since childhood. And I always said when I found what helped me, I would learn the trade and practice in that. Now, I didn't think it was going to be what it turned out to be. So the Healthful Mind Clinic has been going, I've been qualified for 15 years, but I'm a coach, a counsellor, hypnotherapist, mindfulness teacher, do a whole variety of different mind-based therapies and techniques from Neuro-Linguistic programming, IEMT, yeah, ACT, there's lots of them because like many therapists, we just keep gathering our trainings and our skills in our toolbox. But it really began so 15 years ago, or no, before then, about 17, 18 years ago, I was in my early 40s. I'd been on crutches for years and I had slip discs and whatever. And I'd suffered from anxiety my whole life. But I felt trapped in this body which was chronically ill. I've been allergic to food since my teens. So I've only got a few foods I can eat. And there was so much going on with my health that I had no trust in what my body could do. And so my whole life was focused around, how do I get through the next thing? Whether it was the school run, whether it was trying to go out socially, or at this point, I knew my marriage was not going in the direction I wanted it to. So it was like, I need to start using my brain. My body's given up on me. I need to start using my brain and, learning some more. And just by chance, what was offered at my adult education college was NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And my tutor was a psychiatrist, psychologist, and was very inspirational. But in the first session, they went round the classroom and said, "What do you want to get out of this?" And I simply said, "I just want to be well enough to be here for 2 hours once a week." And that was really all I aimed for.
Excellent.
But very quickly, I began to realize how much power I had within me. That I was going to all these different doctors and whatever and going, "Can you fix me? Can you fix me? Can you fix me?" But when it comes to functional health issues, which is basically what's wrong with me, a whole host of functional health issues, um, doctors don't know the answers. They know there's something wrong, but they don't know why and they don't know how to fix it. And so I didn't fix it as such, but what I did was change the way I felt about it.
Okay.
And so the biggest change I had was I managed to not be anxious anymore. And I had literally been anxious from birth for some things that happened when I was first born. And I didn't know how not to be anxious until I learnt how to be calmer, how to just do things
Yeah.
rather than catastrophizing them, second
Yeah.
guessing them,
Yeah.
imagining the worst. Um, and things began to change. And within a month, I'd got rid of the crutches. And I began to learn more about how pain is made in the brain, not in the body, and the links between that and your emotional health. And then began a very long journey. I did training, and my first company was positivity life coaching and hypnotherapy. Um, and I've morphed along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, yeah, and I'd never really made a living out of this. So my marriage went to the side
Okay.
and I had to look after myself and my children.
Yeah.
And and so I was struggling a bit with the business. And then along comes COVID
Yeah.
and everybody's trying to make a go of it online. And it was this madness time. And I sat on a training one day and this lady said, in business, everything's a risk.
Yeah.
It should just be a calculated risk.
Right.
So I calculated, I hated being online.
Okay.
I hated not seeing my clients face to face.
Yeah.
And so I went and hired a consultation room, part of a bigger building, um, and, full-time rental, so I could make it my clinic.
Yeah.
And it became the Healthful Mind Clinic. I
Oh,
named it then.
okay.
And that was 5 years ago. And then 2 years in, this is a very, very long story, so I'm really trying
No,
to make
that's
it
fine.
shorter.
That's not a problem.
Um, but yeah, so that was 2020, and it took me a couple of months to set it up. But we opened and we had screens and we had masks and visors, but people came through the door. They were desperate for the help. Being that I worked a lot with chronic illness, I worked
Yeah.
with anxiety,
Yeah.
stress, there was so much around, and so much health anxiety was coming through the door as well. So I was there 2 years, which
Okay.
takes us to the end of 2022.
Yeah.
Um, but in the summer of 2022, a doctor decided I needed my hips replaced
Oh,
and
wow.
said I had a genetic deformity and that they would correct it. And that's why
Yeah.
I was struggling so much with various things. He was wrong, but he replaced my hips and I was left in a wheelchair and on crutches and couldn't walk. And my legs were stuck like this, like 2 foot apart. Um, and on the very same day that I saw another doctor that said, no, really, it's all gone wrong, wouldn't even know where to start, how to make this right again. I was told that my building was sold and I would have to move the clinic. So here I am in the worst physical place I could be,
Yeah.
in this, you know, business turmoil, wasn't even living in my house because we bought this house, me and my son had bought this house in the July,
Right.
like it had gone through like 2 weeks or a week after my first surgery,
Yeah.
and he was gutting it, so I couldn't live in it. um, and yeah, gutting it, building it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was living at my boyfriend's where there was nowhere to see my clients.
Oh,
And it
dear.
was like, what am I going to do? And I had until the Christmas. And so I thought, well, if I can't follow my dreams now, when can you?
Okay.
So I took the lease on a shop in a part of town. They call it a village.
Right.
It's just on the outskirts of
Okay.
one of our smaller Dorset towns
Right.
in the south of England. And my son, because he's a builder, we gutted it. We built 3 consultation rooms.
Fantastic.
And I can honestly say I have not looked back. It has
Excellent.
just grown and grown. And now I have about 8 therapists, other mind-based therapists working with me. It's full. uh, and I didn't know that's where it was going.
That
I
is a,
didn't know.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
an incredible story, isn't it? That's a brilliant story.
Yeah.
Well, which part of Dorset are you in?
So I live in Wimborne and the clinic's in West Moors.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
a very little known place is
Yeah,
West
no,
Moors.
in my childhood, I knew a little bit about Dorset. I knew Dorchester,
Mm.
I knew
Yeah.
Weymouth.
Yeah.
I had my my dad's mum used to live in Bournemouth. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know
So
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're 5 miles. We're a Bournemouth
Yeah,
postcode.
you're
So
Bournemouth. Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. I
yeah,
mean, it's a really nice part of the world.
yeah. I'm a
Generally,
Londoner.
you're a
And I
Londoner.
moved
Okay,
down
yeah,
here in
I noticed that because when you first started speaking, I just automatically assumed, oh, that I could hear that London twang, But
yeah,
yeah, brilliant. That's a really interesting story. You
yeah.
know.
So I moved down here in 2001.
You've been
25
there
years ago.
yeah, you've been there for a
On
fair.
the 19th, in fact, or 19th of April, 2020. No, 20th. It was my mother-in-law's 70th birthday. So, yeah, 20th of April. So almost 25 years to the day. And yeah, it was always my dream to open a clinic
Yeah.
once I started training. But,
What do you?
we
Yeah, I mean, you got the training. Obviously, you've got the lived experience. You've got the training. You had the passion. Kind of, you did all the kind of things that needed to be done, and you had the grit really to really sort of like to push
yeah.
through. What were some of the? I mean, obviously, you've spoken about the physical challenges and this and that, but you're also going through a lot of your own particular personal, pain. It must have been quite, all the time
Yeah.
when this is going on. You were still not very well, were you?
No, I mean, it's still ongoing. It's, yeah, what was done to my hips has changed my whole body. And I struggle to walk any distance. There's lots of things I can't do now. Um, and there's a whole legal case about it,
Oh,
which is long and drawn out and painful as well, because it stops you moving on. And in actual fact, the healthful mind, the name came to me. I always said 3 o'clock in the morning was my genius hour. And I
okay.
went to sleep one night and I went, give me a name tonight. And
Yeah,
I
you
woke up
got
at
it.
3 o'clock in
Yeah.
the morning, and the name that came to me was Healthfulness, because everybody knows about mindfulness,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's about how you
The
can
mindset.
work with your mind. But what
Yeah.
about healthfulness?
Yeah.
What does that mean? So I looked it up, and it said, doing what's good for the health of your body and mind. And I thought, well, perfect. So we'll call it the healthful mind. And so the whole training and the whole message in that is that when people are ill, when they're in pain, when they're anxious, when they're stressed, they wake up in the morning and they do a quick recce on their problem. And throughout the day, they're aware of their problem.
Yeah.
And certainly they're aware if there's pain or illness or whatever. And the healthful mind is aware of the health,
Right.
because even though there might be one thing wrong, there's other things that are right.
Right. Exactly.
And so we start gently moving towards the mind, towards what's right. And therefore the body, the nervous system,
Yeah.
understanding that as soon as we spot something that's wrong, our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, goes into this sympathetic defense state. And that puts strain on the immune system. It puts strains on the organs, on your blood sugar levels, on everything.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so, but as soon as you're geared towards, oh, look, this is right, this feels okay, this feels
Yes.
comfortable,
Yeah.
then you move into your parasympathetic state,
Right.
rest and digest.
Okay.
So for those with digestive issues, so
Yeah.
it's been really good for that, for me. And
Yeah.
I have lots of clients with digestive issues. But it's, yeah, that connection between illness and the mind
Yeah. The
is what this is
psychosomatic.
all about,
Yeah. Right.
and
And
how to be the best you can in
yeah,
your health, but through working with the mind.
that's incredible. That's very interesting. So, Healthful Mind Clinic has clearly grown.
Yes.
Well, what would you consider the sort of like some of the biggest milestones in your journey so far? And how I know that you've spoken about how you sort of like you struggled, but how would you say in essence you achieved that?
Um, well, I have a saying: when the going gets
Yeah,
tough, the tough get going.
true. Yeah,
And so last year I made some therapy cards. Didn't know what to call them, so they're Healthful Mind therapy cards. I thought,
right. Okay.
I'll write in the box what it actually does.
Yeah.
And one of the sayings is, so in it there's 28 cards, um, 7 breath work, 7 body work, 7 mind work, because the language of your unconscious mind is your breath, your body, your
Yeah.
mind.
Of course.
And then there's 7 Alexarisms, which are, my clients name them that. They'd say, I've come for some more Alexarisms. I need your words of wisdom to get through this.
Right.
So one of the sayings is, do not leave anything to the mercy of your emotions. So if we trust in our emotions and always follow what our emotions say, especially when things aren't going very well, we're not going to get very far.
Yeah, you're going to make wrong
And
decisions. Yeah, wrong sort of like rabbit holes. You'll enter wrong rabbit.
exactly. So if we can then, focus more on what we can achieve, what we want to achieve, what do we want the outcome to look like? And also with the presupposition that we only know we want it because we've had it before. So we only know we want health because we've had health before. What does it feel like to feel happy?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so with that presupposition, we know we have that built within us,
Yeah.
and that if we start doing the things that bring us health, bring us happiness, bring us calm, bring us, comfort, safety, then slowly the other things, well, actually not even that slowly, sometimes really quickly, the
Quite
other stuff
rapidly, I would
changes.
imagine. Yeah, quite rapidly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I talk about changing the internal environment
Right.
so that your problem doesn't need to happen.
Okay. So
But there's nothing woo-woo, nothing mystic. It's
yeah,
pure
nothing
neuroscience.
woo. I like that expression. I actually just heard that recently, woo woo, and I was like, "What you on about?" Then I've been hearing it more. So that, I mean, it's yeah, anything when it comes to sort of like the mind and health, they automatically start thinking about, other sort of like spiritual dimensions and all that kind of thing. So you've had
Yeah, no, don't do that.
yeah, yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's
Don't ask me anything about that.
no, I won't. Don't worry.
I know nothing.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So I know that, obviously when it comes to things like health, it's something that's for everybody, obviously, and then
Yeah,
there's not a lack of how do I say it? There's not a lack of patience, not to be cynical, but there's not a lack
no,
of people in the billions and billions of people in the world who do not have and do not face challenges. So in your
exactly.
neck of the woods, how do people come to you, or how do you're
Yeah.
busy, what's your capacity? I mean, do people come to you? How do you reach out?
Yeah, we're a face-to-face clinic, and that's
Okay,
what people want. A
right.
lot of people have been through the NHS, they've done these online things, sometimes even text counselling. I don't know how anybody could do that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a bit,
because we read
that sounds a bit
we
woo-woo.
read people's body language, then
Yeah,
they need that. And also the difference between being in our clinic and they're away from the constraints of their home. They've given themselves this time and this space to focus on themselves.
yeah,
Whereas online like this, you never know who's listening, or, oh,
yeah.
hang on, I'll just turn the oven off, or, you know,
Yeah, I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she's like, she's doing a thesis right now, and this and that. So she says she's at home in her digs, in her uni and this and that, and then she'll go to the library to finish off her this, to work on it. I said, why go to, just do it at home? She says, no, that is her space for rest. So, just keying in with
yeah,
what exactly you're saying. So when you sort of like you go to another place, so that's why the physicality is really important. Yeah, that's
yeah.
really
And
important.
actually, that's why working from home has not been good for a lot of people's mental health.
Yeah, it clearly,
Yeah.
it
But
clearly,
interestingly enough, and this is a whole niche, the fact that there are a lot of people that work from home and they can do this now that have health issues.
yeah,
And that when lockdown came, it was like, oh, the pressure's off. I can just sit here.
yeah,
If I've got gut issues, I'm not wondering if I have to leave and, suddenly go to the toilet.
yeah, yeah,
Um, oh, I can prepare the food I need, or maybe I
yeah,
can even go and have a lie down on the bed for 10
yeah,
minutes or
yeah, yeah,
whatever. I can do that at lunchtime if I'm
yeah,
working from home. And so there is a lot of entrepreneurs start their own businesses like myself because they need to suit their lifestyle around their health issues. Um, and so, yeah, but then on the other side, it leaves people trapped in the I can't scenario. So
right.
if they don't go out, it starts to become, well, can I go out?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I don't know. Now I'm getting anxious about that.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
when you have to go to work every day,
You don't think about it.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's changed a lot of people's thought processes and experiences.
I think it also
Um,
had a lot of, when I look back at it, it also had quite a sort of an effect on children, didn't it? With the schooling and everything like that.
yeah,
It really changed, and there was a time it was quite even, there was a foreboding because of the fact that, you don't want to get sick with the COVID and, what was happening and a lot of people passing away. And then there was that kind of social, that mental health thing. So it was, looking back, it was quite a dark,
Mm. Mm. And we see youngsters,
yeah,
and there is definitely a generation
yeah,
that have developed various health anxieties, OCD, neuroses. Some of them never sat exams until they suddenly their GCSEs, and they're like, oh, what am I doing here?
yeah,
I've not had that formal because everything was done in a different way.
yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it's time and time again, people come into the office and go, things changed in COVID for me. We've got a few long COVID clients, and things like that.
Wow. Okay. So, Healthful Mind Clinic. Obviously, you've been going for a little while now. You've had your
Yeah.
challenges, so like starting up and going forward.
Yeah.
What would you say works really well for you?
Um, we're local. We serve the local community. We don't try and be, or we haven't tried to be any more than that.
Okay.
We've won local awards. We've got New
Excellent.
Business Award. We got Excellence in Customer Service. We
Excellent.
stand on fields
Yeah.
just to expose ourselves, to go, this is us. And people go, oh, I've seen you. What happens in
Okay.
there? I do no marketing.
You don't do
No
any
marketing at
marketing.
all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, nothing formal. I don't really network. I
Okay.
don't have time.
Okay.
Um, but the sheer presence of the clinic on a high street and we don't get walk-ins. We don't have a receptionist. We do have a desk and a reception area, and they can come in and leave their details. But Google, everybody finds us through Google. I've never done Google advertising. I don't do much on my Google business page. Um, I'm about to run a 21-day reset, going through the therapy cards. I haven't got many people on it because I cannot abide being on social media. It's just, I don't have the time. I don't. It is a time thief.
It's a
Um,
thief. The thing is that,
yeah,
so I think what you're talking about, I mean, obviously every business has its own, I mean, business is business. Whether you're some NGOs, some are charities, they're not there for money, they're there for other
yeah,
things, but they're still working within that framework of what it is to run a business. Okay. So
yeah,
what we find is that we have a lot of some people that might not necessarily want to market or to grow, perhaps in your sort of like situation, but they're always looking at ways of making what they're doing easier. Okay.
oh yes,
So you just mentioned about having the time for social media and this and that is quite an effort, and there are ways that that could be sorted. We don't have to talk about that now. There are ways that
no,
sorted.
I
What it is,
yeah,
what it is, Alexa. You're on the high street, so you're talking about the high street, being on the high street. That's really good. So you have visibility. So you're talking about brand in and of itself, type of,
yeah.
So that's a
I am actually
nuance.
wearing the brand colours today.
Oh, you are wearing the brand colors. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, lime green, turquoise, and yellow,
Okay,
and white.
that's really nice. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that, it's what we call the sort of like so you've mentioned what's going well for you. You're on the high street, you have a lot of people, you have clientele, you obviously love what you do, you have a passion, you've got the purpose and all that kind of thing. So what would you say? I'll flip it. Let's just flip it. What would you say has not worked so well? Sorry.
Um, my organisation. We work a lot with ADHDers, and I have an ADHD son, and I
Okay.
definitely have some ADHD traits. And courtesy of making tax digital, I'm
Yeah.
having to change the way I do my accounting and It's very time consuming.
Yeah.
I don't have good systems in play. I have a VA, but she does a limited amount of work for me. So the big thing that I've changed in the business, and they always say you've got to have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
I've got 3 more years on my lease in the clinic. And there had been times when I'm like, do I want to work at this pace? What do I do? I'll be 63 then.
Yeah.
How do I want this?
63 is still
Sorry?
63 is still young. If you're in good health,
Ye-
it is still young.
Yeah, but I'm not in good health. I know the value of how important it is to do the things that support my health. And that doesn't mean seeing 30 clients a week, working 60 hours a week,
Yes.
6 days a week. It means taking those times out to go to swimming, to go to physio, to have a walk, to relax, to,
Go
you
on
know,
holiday or whatever.
do some baking, yeah, oh, definitely a holiday.
Yeah.
So
I think,
changing the structure of the clinic, and this is what you in any business, I think if you start it and you go, this is the way it's going, but you don't actually know the way it's going
yeah.
until you do it, and then it's like, what happens? And we got to a point a few months ago and it's like, I've got too many clients. I've realized I can't turn anyone away. People are like, oh, I've got a 3 months wait or a 6 months wait on the NHS. I need to see you now. And so that's when, and what hadn't worked was the fact that I'd hoped to get room rental, like have regular people in the same day every week,
Yeah.
and they just buy that week every day of the year or whatever. But when people did well, they then left and set up on their own. And we started off as a wellbeing centre with acupuncturists, nutritional therapists, reflexology, and that. But it was all those sorts of things that they either did well and left, or they didn't do well and then didn't want to continue. So I always wanted it to be more of a mind-based centre. But in the beginning, it was like, well, I have to fill it. I have to fill the rooms. So a few months ago, with the amount of inquiries that I was getting, I did AI the front page of my website and changed it a bit, and things just exploded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I took on more therapists, and we have a referral arrangement.
Okay.
So the inquiries come through me,
Yeah.
and I either see them myself or
Or you farm them